Thank you, Mandy. And hello and a very warm welcome to AppliedHE Fireside Chat, wherever you're based. We already have hello from participants in Malaysia, Uganda, India, Philippines, and Saudi Arabia, just popping up. So climate change is an issue of global importance and responsibility. Higher education institutions play many roles in climate change. Some examples, they do research in climate change, they develop new technologies to mitigate or adapt to its effects. They educate the future workforce for a carbon neutral economy, and they nurture the future leaders to drive these important social, economical, and also technological changes. At the same time, higher education institutions are also looking inward. What is their own carbon footprint? And are they truly contributing to sustainable development? We'll find out later. In such a highly complex and often sensitive and contested field of knowledge, what should higher education leaders prioritize? To shed some light to these challenges, AppliedHE Fireside Chat sits down with a group of thought leaders from different parts of the world and our global audience. And tonight we're in for a treat, because we have four fantastic leaders from literally across the globe, from Australia, Uganda, Malaysia, and Saudi Arabia. We're really, really pleased with the opportunity to talk to all of you. Our first thought leader is Dr. Jenny Wong, Dean of Sato Business School, the Prime School of Integrated Logistics, Sato University College, Malaysia. Dr. Wong is passionate about educating the young minds and driving changes to the education ecosystem. She speaks on trending topics such as joy in learning, EQ and students' well-being, business digitization, and we're about to hear her take on sustainability and climate change, priorities for higher education leaders. Dr. Wong, please.
Thank you, Winnie, for the wonderful introduction. So let me just start off by saying that sustainability and digitalization are not mutually exclusive. So when we talk about sustainability, they are actually complementary, synergetic, and positively influence value creation. So let me just give all of you a simple fact. Yeah. So every year, the global climate change has actually changed tremendously. Yeah. So we have gas emissions, all right, which has been increasing for every 1.5% per year. So these can be sources from, we talk about LPG, liquefied petroleum gases, to the diesel fuel consumption, electronic equipment, water consumptions, food and catering services, solid waste. So all these are actually the sources of the GHG emissions. Now, having said that, what are the sources? Then what can we do about it? Yeah, so Winnie has mentioned just now about carbon footprint. Now, in Malaysia, we have both the IPTA, which is the government institution, as well as the private institution, who are actually actively participating in this carbon footprint. So they have been actually looking into different types of sources. For example, I will just quote one university who has actually been through this research on the carbon footprint, and we have actually found out that most of, or even half of the results are actually from, surprisingly, are actually from the food wastage. Yeah, food wastage. And secondly, of course, is solid waste. So all these actually contributed to the environmental change, contributed to the climate change, and ultimately, of course, affecting yeah, affecting our sustainability. So what can we do? What are the university's roles in this? Of course, we talk about there are several points of view. Number one is, of course, the knowledge transfer. For me, I think the exposure is very important. The knowledge transfer to the students are very important. So students nowadays, they are actually different, all right? They are the millennial, the Gen Z, and so forth. So we actually need to show them, instead of just, telling them in the classroom, blah, 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 and all this. It has to be action-based. Yeah, so we have to actually do it together with them. So how do we do it together? Of course, we can do a lot of campaigns, green campus campaign, environmental friendly kind of, we can actually absorb it or actually immerse it into one of the modules in the curriculum, to actually educate them. How do they actually recycle? How do they actually make a lot of products more environmental friendly? Aside from that, also, we can actually look into how, we can actually support them apart from just doing that in the university itself. What about the time they spend out there? Yeah, so more often than not, the students will, of course, when they are actually learning things, they will do it sometimes for the assessment marks, and all this. But how do we want to translate these into their out of the classroom, their personal lives? I think this is the important, the gap that we have not really looked into. And secondly, of course, we are looking at how to expose students, of course, to the different parts of the world, the initiatives done. And this is what I have done with my students. So I encourage them to participate in terms of the competition, local or international competition. And recently they have actually won the entrepreneurship hackathon, whereby they actually came out with the environmental friendly bag from recycled materials. So, and they actually presented to the judges, and the judges are actually from different parts of the world. So I think there are several steps that we need to look into as an higher education leaders. Yeah, of course, knowledge transfer. And from the knowledge transfer is how do we put into the action? So the action part, and how do we actually ensure our students will practice it out of the education system, that means in their personal life and all this. And of course, apart from that, I think most of the institution, even in Malaysia, we are actively participating in terms of research, grants, on sustainable development goals, SDG, and all this. So in Saito University College, yeah, we have our own learning center. So we have our digital business center, as well as smart logistics center, whereby we encourage our students to have the ideation on how to do startup. But apart from doing the startup, how to actually encourage them to be innovative. And at the same time, when they do this ideation and startup, they have to look into the SDG. That means whatever they learn, it has to be a purpose. And this purpose will transform into the action. So it is a purposeful learning instead of learning for the sake of learning. So this is how, this is my thoughts. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny. I'm going to address you in your first saying. I think it's amazing. You put a very complex topic into something very sort of concise in knowledge transfer, action-based research, but also practice outside of the classroom. I'm sure we will park those ideas and come back for a good discussion later on. So thank you very much. Moving on, Dr. Haiva Jamal Al-Leh, if I mispronounce your name, you have to pardon me, President, from President of IFA University, Saudi Arabia. President Dr. Haiva is a highly decorated scholar and global leader who's committed to enhancing women's education throughout Saudi Arabia. She is a renowned advocate of youth engagement, women's education in the Middle East, women and change, entrepreneurship and business. President Dr. Haiva, please share with us your priorities on sustainability and climate change from a higher education leader's perspective, please.
Thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate your introduction and appreciate really this valuable theme for discussion. As I said, it's climate change, sustainability, really we're in the mid of the discussion for this kind of a transformation age. And with knowing exactly all of these concepts, all of these kind of terminologies and all of these practical steps that need to be taken into action, I wanted really to shed light first on how we usually, and these concepts, we interconnect these concepts. So the climate change, when we talk about climate change, we always say carbon emission worldwide or nationwide, and how we can reduce that kind of carbon emission. But through what? Through different kind of strategy, and the interrelation with sustainability here is how we mitigate that. Is there is a strategy for sustainability that I need really to follow in order to represent the opportunity to ensure that both present and future generation meet their needs for sustainability, but by reducing and mitigating the problem of climate change that's happening. But also, we always say, is it national effort or it is a global effort? Is it both? Is it how the national, through the different institutions, need to work together, need to collaborate, need to have a policy in place in order really to encourage youth, institutions, different entities, different agencies under the government really toward really helping the future generation with a strategy that reduce this kind of climate carbon emission and protect the climate. But also another level, which is really the intergovernmental effort that need to be taken into consideration. And this one, I think the UN agenda comes handy here, which is agenda for 2030 and the 17 sustainable SDGs that everybody now, I think, taking it as an important step. I'm talking about higher education institutions. They're using this as a framework, a global, but at the same time is a guidance towards sustainability and their strategy to achieve the role of universities and higher education in different countries and in the world. So addressing the climate change or the problem of that comes with the climate change, it requires different action to mitigate this impact. So everybody's using different things. So people are really advocating the use of renewable energy, energy efficiency, carbon trading, and sometimes they use geoengineering. Another thing, adaptation to the impact already underway, which is structural improvement. Yani, like we do this disaster and risk management, we put into place the relocation of vulnerable population and how that really impacting the sustainability. So that's adaptation. So the second part, which is really important, is really how different places, different institutions, different countries are really mitigating this effect. And the most important thing, which is really is education. It's another strategy that some of the institutions, so some of the countries are using it in order really to educate the current, the future generation about and making raising public awareness as an important and essential ingredient to mitigate the impact of climate change. So with that, I think I can really move to the role of higher education institution and how that is really important for them to act, because they are really the one who are carrying the future generation. When I see the effort that's happening, I am part of different kind of organization that really advocating the sustainability and reducing the climate, the impact of climate change. Some of it in the Arab world, some of it's really in the whole world. And my knowledge, my understanding, my contribution to this institution is really how most of higher education are really locking themselves into focusing more on into the compartmentalized rather than holistic approach. So they're not really looking at the holistic approach for sustainability and climate change as an important actually factor. And they're looking at the carbon emission is not really part of their it's just really volunteering, of course, but at the same time, it's something that it's a contribution that the universities and the higher education really institution, regardless of what level, is they need to fertile on the ground the future kind of behavior for climate change and for the sustainability. Also, one of the very important things that really we need to in order to promote sustainability, I want to see the institutional leaders have these goals as part of their strategic plan. So I know that there is very important things that nowadays everybody's really trying to increase the number of students, and this is sustainability and climate change is something that beyond or maybe competing with the most important things that really in order to earn a living for the institution, which is increasing the number of students, but also institution leaders need to really focus on this. And this is not being taken into consideration as much. And there are barriers. I don't want to take a long time, Winnie, but I wanted really to speak about challenges later whenever there is a chance really to speak about the challenges that we're facing and the opportunity that's also available as a driver for us to behave. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Haiba. I think you very successfully planted many challenges, and I've got at least 5 questions that I'm sure other speakers will also have jotted down as well. So we'll come back to that later after we've listened to Dr. David and also Rebecca. So thank you very much, President Dr. Haiba. Our next speaker is Dr. David Sekamat. Is that how you pronounce your last name, David?
Sekamate.
Sekamate. Yes.
Yes, very good.
Thank you. Consultant lecturer on monitoring and evaluation, Uganda Management Institute in Uganda. Currently, David is a postdoctorate fellow under the Farley Future Africa program, coordinated by the University of Pretoria, funded by the Carnegie Corporation of New York. His thesis is actually very interesting. The postdoctorate research that he's working on is on integration of climate change and sustainability education in the business and management training at 2 universities in Uganda. Dr. David, please.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction. My colleagues have talked about a number of things and looking at how universities are supporting the climate, reducing the climate footprint as well as promoting sustainability. I just want now to focus on the role of governance. How does university governance, for example, support the reduction of climate footprint, as well as promoting sustainability within the university and also the community where they stay. There are so many things that are happening in universities, done by students, done by faculty, done by units, as my colleagues have said, and some of them are to do with the curriculum, ensuring that the curriculum is able to address a number of these issues. others are to do with the actual practices within the university in terms of, for example, the water systems, the renewable energy or the energy sources. All these are areas where issues of sustainability can actually be addressed. But there is always what we call, and of course, research. Very many universities are doing a lot of research on climate change, on sustainability. I'm one of the researchers on this as well. But I just wanted to talk about two things in a very few minutes. One is, what should be the role of the university governance in all these things? University governance, we are talking about the governing councils that actually manage the university or govern the university operations. We're talking about the management committees. Other universities, like here in Africa, we have Senate committees that are typically looking at academic programs. What should be their role? I would want to point about one or two things. That one, the governance should be able to influence the organizational culture and policies so that the organization or the university is able to embed climate-friendly and sustainable practices. And so reviewing the university values, the human resource management systems, the procurement management systems, the leadership styles within the university, so that all these aspects of sustainability, as well as climate change mitigation and adaptation, are integrated in many of these things. The other one is looking at, of course, my colleagues have talked about the study programs, but the governance should also encourage the development of and implementation of many of these study programs, as well as research projects on climate change. So supporting the faculty, the research units to develop such programs, looking at cross-cutting issues as well, and being able to for example, influence the research agenda. I can give an example in Uganda. Makerere University Council and the University of Dar es Salaam Governing Council in Tanzania added climate change and sustainability issues in their research agendas. And therefore, it's deliberate that the university should actually be able to do research on climate change and sustainability. The other one is in terms of resources. Of course, governing councils and Senate look for resources. And many of the museums that are, working on climate change may not have adequate resources. So the councils and governance and management can be able to support mobilization of adequate financial and material resources to actually support implementation of many of these issues. The other one is looking at the practices themselves. How is the university at campus, for example, engaging in climate-friendly practices? And this is an issue of governance, is an issue of management. Can we think about governance and management, putting in place systems to ensure that everyone, students and faculty and support staff, and everyone can be able to practice climate-friendly practices and come up with activities that reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Then, of course, rewarding and encouraging innovations on sustainability. People here, my colleagues have talked about technology. But how do we ensure that the faculty and the students can be able to innovate using technology? Innovate in any way. There are a number of examples in South Africa. Rhodes University, for example, in South Africa, has put in place annual awards for departments, for student societies, for individual staff, or students and groups who display excellent responsiveness and innovation on climate change and sustainability practices within the university. Then, of course, there is partnerships and networking. I want to mention that UMI, where I work, Uganda Management Institute, is partnering with the Ministry of Water and Environment, as well as IIED and other agencies within government to develop capacity of local governments in terms of them coming up with adaptation interventions, but also being able to source for funding and implementing these successfully. These partnerships, again, bring out what you call the third mission of the university. The third mission of the university that we call community engagement, that the university leaves the comfort zones and move out to the community and move out to the districts and move out to the local communities and can be able to support local communities to come up with adaptation kind of plans, to interventions, and can be able to use the research and be able to inform community engagement kind of programs. So, coming up with policies, coming up with practices, and looking at how the faculty and students can engage on activities that can actually promote, sustainability, as well as promoting, for example, climate mitigation and adaptation is very, very key. And I think that the role of governance and management is very, very key in this kind of space. I thank you so much. That's what I wanted to contribute to this discussion.
Thank you, David. Very important. Governance, as you say, leadership, and also driving that culture. And I'm sure we'll come back to frame it all together to have a good conversation later on. Thank you. Ms. Rebecca Hall, Commissioner for Victoria to Southeast Asia, Australia. Rebecca is an extremely experienced executive in trade, investment, and education engagement with more than 25 years working in government, not-for-profits, and education settings. Rebecca is a collaborative leader who is driven to make a difference for Victorian business in Southeast Asia. And in 2021, Rebecca was appointed the first Global Ambassador for the Climate Action Network for International Education. I think we call it CANI. CANI, yes. Rebecca, please.
Thank you so much, Winnie, and to my fellow panelists. I'm here in Indonesia, actually, in Jakarta today. So hello to others here in the region. But also I've just so much enjoyed the conversation, but it's a very tough act to be the final panel member. But I did have 3 priorities, which I think build on what our other speakers have shared, but also acknowledging that I come from a different perspective at the moment, that I am working for government, for a sub-national government, and a sub-national government in Victoria, which was the first state government in Australia to commit to climate action and to have our own state-based climate action strategy and to commit to new energy and renewable energy targets. So I think if I layer it up from individual institution levels of government and government and industry around us, I think one of the priorities that I see is actually for our institutions to be positioned as partners to government. This is not a problem that government can solve on its own. It's not a problem that we can solve country to country. It is truly one of those, a global challenge. So I think the first priority is actually locating our work and our institutions within that framework. And we certainly in Victoria, and I think more so during COVID, have been able to double down on that partnership around commercialisation, around research priorities, around incentivising research and engagement in climate action and climate research. I think that goes to David's points around governance, but also second priority, whole of institution and whole of organisation embedded effort. I have worked in universities, a number of universities in Australia, and so I say organisation because I think, of course, there are lessons from how corporate Australia or corporate ventures are also tackling the challenge of managing, measuring, adapting and mitigating for climate change in their own sectors as well. So the priority, again, from looking outside into our education institutions is who else can we learn from, other sectors and other partners to be able to hopefully make that change inside our organisation. And to create the culture, which means that it's not just a single researcher or a team or an individual, but it actually becomes part of our culture and our way of working. And I think the final priority that I would see, and it is a shout out to the work of CANI and the Climate Action Network, is I was part of the formation of that group. I certainly have watched from the sidelines, but have been so impressed with the passion of that organisation and seeking to really raise the awareness, particularly around student mobility and those who are working in the student mobility space, and what role that, as a very big function of our international engagement and global engagement, and how those practitioners can make a difference. So I think the priority there is, of course, a shout out for Kani and for the opportunity to be part of the accord and the new commitments to action. But for that, it's more broader around surrounding yourself with the right community of leaders and thought leaders, a bit like what we're doing tonight, to actually stay motivated, to keep focused, and to deal with the challenges when they arise, because they most certainly will. Winnie, I'll just have one final, I know I said I had 3 priorities, but one final comment, I guess, given that I have been acknowledged as the Australian speaker here tonight, although I am in Southeast Asia. But I think the final piece is actually listening to our students, our communities and our industry on what they want. And the Australian election and our new government, I think, is an example of there were 3 priorities, and the commentators have all agreed on these in terms of what changed or what was a key change. And climate change was the #1 priority that people were asking for action on, and people from all colours, red, blue, green, teal, no matter what colour you are or identify with. Secondly, around equality and women's equality, I think acknowledging some of our speakers here, we do know that climate action disproportionately impacts women, and it disproportionately impacts those who are least prepared to deal with it. So that notion of equality. And then finally, integrity. Those were the 3 issues, if you read about the Australian election, that certainly changed the leadership. And I think those 3 things really matter. Obviously, we're talking about climate change, but equality and integrity, and how we go about that, and how we include everyone in our solution. So I think I'll leave it there, just looking forward to being part of the conversation and answering some questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. Bursting with passion there. And the shout out to Kani, I think that's wonderful. So much to do. And we have listened to all 4 speakers, and it's actually a very rich framework here. I'm just wondering, between fellow speakers, do you have a question and observation for each other? Excuse me. Is there something that you wanted to ask one another first? Can I come in then? Oh, Dr. Haiba.
Okay. I think just one very important thing, at this moment, I think maybe I can speak about Saudi Arabia here, and how now they're establishing a framework nationally to pull this kind of effort from all higher education institutions. And it's being done under KPIs and measurable objective. And so this is what they call institutionalizing the sustainability and climate change in different countries under what they call it the different universities deanship of community service. So and then they called for that, and but as I told you before, the trends now of different kind of institutions around the world, like Talwar network, like Ma'an, and Talwar network is in New York with all of the different camp, with Tufts University, Ma'an with AUC, American University of Cairo. All of this are really collaborating together in order really to look at how we do civic engagement, but in the area that serve the SDGs, which is really connecting all of us together. So my question to my colleagues here, how many of you, adopted the SDGs as part of their, especially, the sustainability and climate change is part of the 17 goals, but it's most important things. So I just want to know how many of our institution being really part of this kind of a trend and communicated with UN and looked at the KPIs and put this as part of their curriculum, their registration, their bylaws, their culture. As I read for one of the chat of the participants said, it has to be the culture, as our colleague mentioned. It's really how to establish a culture of serving the community in that area. So who has this kind of a connection with the UN and who has played a role with that?
Okay, can I just maybe just make a comment to Dr. Haifa's question? What I know, and to start with, that there are very few countries that have some kind of organization for all the higher education institutions focusing on sustainability. I know that through, for example, NAFSA, I've been part of NAFSA, Association of International Educators, and we've been supporting them to really engage the members of NAFSA in terms of discussing climate change and sustainability for the last, I think, 2 years, when I was a senior NAFSA fellow. But I know very well that a few organizations have smaller networks. Like in Uganda, we have about 6 or 7 universities that are working together. It's not a national thing, but just a few universities sitting together and agreeing to work together in terms of promoting some of these aspects. And then we also have a few programs that bring us together as universities to be able to look at some of these. But universities are autonomous entities. Sometimes they prefer to have their space. They really want to work alone or something like that. But I think, like you're saying, it's important for them to come together in kind of forming networks and partnerships to be able to because, for example, there are situations where you need to advocate, for example, for policies, to work with government, to engage policymakers. The voice is bigger when you are together as universities, and you can easily be able to engage the university. So I think that what you're proposing is very, very important for universities to kind of belong to, or to create some kind of a network where they can have a voice to be able to do something. Rebecca talked about the Kani Accord. I was part of this in the initial stages, and now I am trying to convince my institute to actually ratify it. It's a little tough because to convince management, they start looking at what are the financial implications and so many things. But I think if universities can, for example, ratify this accord, then all universities that have actually ratified the accord could actually form some kind of a network where they can easily be able to share experiences, learn from each other, and advocate for certain things that may actually need to be done within their countries. So I would think that that could be another opportunity that we can be able to use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have a question here, and it's a great question from Owanda Johnson.
Okay.
It's really about how institutions manage their finite resources. So sustainability and climate change have a lot to do with equipping the current generation, bracket the youth, with in-depth knowledge. How are the institutions well positioned for providing funding opportunities in line with climate change to this youth? So any of our speakers want to give it a go? Resources are always finite, so yeah. Prioritization.
I think fundraising is one of the very important ways that we usually do in order really to come with the things that not budgeted from the current budget or future budget. And I think we in effort, we're trying really to look at how university can be part of the community and how the community can be part of the university. So, and looking at this kind of interaction, it's really win-win, okay, kind of situation always. When you look at something, a cause like this, a good cause, and it just really, everybody will be involved. So I think once you really convince the donor, convince the institution or the management or of the institution, this might really put a lot of bring a lot of really resources, but one way or another, without affecting the daily kind of operation. I'm sorry I took a chance to really to answer, but I felt like, you know, it's really important to budget, but sometimes budgeting at this moment is not really, not every institution really will accept that. This is beyond the ability of the institution now, because I think all of us facing difficulties after the pandemic with the scarcity in the resources and less number of students. So I think most of the universities are facing these challenges these days. Yeah. And just now they're coming back, the students are coming back, but still digitalization and are really keeping them away. So we're really looking, we're working with the competing factors, competing goals, and each one of them need to have a separate budget. And unless really you institutionalize something like this inside the institution, it won't really happen. So fundraising is the first really maybe way to look at how we can have these resources.
Dr. Haifa. So Rebecca, Jenny, and then Dr. David. Rebecca, Jenny, and then Dr. David.
We all want to jump in on this one. So two alternative views here. One is actually there is a lot of information and education outside our institutions around climate change education. I myself have been trained through the Climate Leaders Program. I've been part of and seen many of the micro-credentials that were already around but have really come to the fore during COVID. So I think the lower entry cost for good quality content and information at that macro level is available more than ever. So the cost of engaging in the conversation should be lower. I don't work in an institution or run an institution at the moment, so I know that might be counter. Also, I think for young people and certainly young Australians who are living in urban centres in Australia, seeing is believing. Coming to the region and seeing the impact of climate change in the Pacific or climate change in the region, looking at challenges of energy, food security, all of those areas. So I do think there is absolutely a role for our traditional student mobility of actually engaging our students back in communities that are certainly dealing with the impacts of climate change in a way that most suburban Australian students are not exposed to. So, and there is certainly in the Australian context funds from government and also from institutions around that continued student mobility, but with a focus on purpose and planet.
Thanks, Rebecca. Jenny?
Yeah, so I think funding opportunities is quite a gray area in the sense that, you know, there are other universities, probably because of the size of the university, the reputation, they may not be so well known and they are not being given the opportunity for these fundings. So I have been in some of the boards granting some of the grants, you know, for this environmental research and all this. So there are certain institutions are not being able to join because of some of the issues and all these probably they do not have the capability of doing so. So I think it's very gray area. And in terms of funding opportunities, we can actually look into the stakeholders. I think what the main issue, the main topic today, of course, is the higher education, but we all know that when it comes to climate change, when it comes to sustainability, all the stakeholders must be involved. Yeah. So I saw some of the chats just now, they talk about whether is it cultural or curriculum are more important. To me, every perspective is important, and we have to actually see how each and every one of us will take the role, whether be it we are an academicians, we are in the institution, or we being in the society itself as a citizen of the country. What can we do to the climate change? Yeah, so we talk about how the knowledge transfer, how the stakeholder itself, different stakeholders will play a different role. I think when we actually are able to do this, as a global citizen, whereby each and every one of us know our role and how the institution can actually jump in terms of, from a bigger overview, the framework and whatnot. I think this will work, but it has to be everyone efforts and not just the institution, not just any of the organizational bodies and so forth, but everyone must contribute. Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny. Everyone must contribute. Dr. David, have you got anything? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So for us at Uganda Management Institute, what we have done is to actually go to the community and develop the capacity of leaders, local leaders, to actually come up with interventions that engage young people, to actually source funding for it from bigger funding agencies, and then be able to implement and monitor and evaluate and be able to create some bit of impact on this. So we know very well that we can't have resources to be able to support all the youths to do this. But what we are doing now is to actually go to the community, maybe select a few local governments and work with the leaders and develop their capacity, give them skills and enable them and support them to be able to come up with interventions that and being able to source for funding by themselves and managing the funding and being able to implement many of these activities. So that could be, and we're doing this through what we call the third mission of the university, or the community engagement arm of the university. And so we're using our staff, part of the team, to be able to go down there and provide their technical expertise and be able to work with the leaders in the local governments and be able to support development of some of these interventions. I think that could be one way young people can be able to benefit and engage into this kind of things. Thank you.
Thank you. We actually got to a stage where good conversation means we're near the end of the session. Can you believe it? I wanted to go on and on forever, but and we have quite a lot of active conversation in the chats. And just one thing that I pick up is on communities. We don't have enough time there, but later on when we do our social sort of get together, I think we might have a chat on that. And to all the speakers, if you have one, as we know, resources are finite, but actions and time, they are finite too. Life is so short. So if you have one urgent call for action to your fellow colleagues in higher education, one action that you said everyone must get on board, what would that be? 1 minute each, maximum. So shall we do a reverse order? We'll let David speak first. So David, Rebecca, Dr. Haiva, and Jenny, please.
Okay, mine is, and I keep on saying, let the university management and governance take the lead. They shouldn't wait for scientists and faculty, but the management and the governance should take the lead. That is what I would actually say. Thank you.
Okay, Winnie, my one action is to contribute to the work of CANI. So CANI is a grassroots effort. It's not a strongly funded or bureaucratic organisation. It's created from grassroots, and I know we've got a lot of people in the audience who are from Southeast Asia, and so I understand that Kani is looking to set up an Asia chapter for community to come together to talk about what climate action and sustainability in education looks like in Asia. And so, yeah, my call to action is to not only, as David mentioned, try and sign the Kani Accord and work through that process, but even more valuable, I think, as an individual, is to volunteer your time to create that community in your region, and to also, I think, along the way, learn and expand your network and knowledge as well.
I can go next, if you don't mind. I think different contexts may have different kind of action need to be taken, and but all of us, if we really agreed on integrating sustainability and climate change into the university curriculum one way or another, and show our new generation that how important for them and for their kids really this kind of a cause, I think that would be a great of a great importance. And maybe we always teach information literacy, so what about really teaching sustainability and climate change literacy? Thank you.
I would like to sum up with 2 E's and 1 A: educate, expose, and action from everyone. Thank you.
Awesome. We'll just do all that. Thank you very much to our wonderful, wonderful panel speakers. It's been a privilege on behalf of Dr. Janet Elieva from Education Insight to moderate this session. So thank you very much, Jenny, Dr. Haiva, Rebecca, and David. And a big thank you to AppliedHE. I mean, Mandy and the team, you're so brave. You organize this platform and you offer the opportunity for us to have this wonderful conversation that we don't normally have the platform to do. So thank you very much, Mandy and AppliedHE. Back to you, Mandy.
Okay, so right. Thank you so much, everyone, for the very interesting discussion. I hope you've all enjoyed it. While I'm going through my closing presentation, my colleague Simon will be quietly upgrading all of you, all the participants, to panelists so that you will be able to meet and greet each other at the end of the event. So please do not decline when he is upgrading you. We'd love to see as many of you as possible. However, please mute your mics till I finish with my presentation. Meanwhile, please allow me to express my deep appreciation to our wonderful speakers and Winnie for their time and contributions, and also thank you, our participants, for joining us for this second Fireside Chat of the year. The next Fireside Chat is scheduled on the 3rd of August at 8 p.m. Singapore time, and the motion is Sustainable Development and Research Cooperation. As you can see, we have the whole series of Fireside Chats planned out for the year, so I hope you will join us for as many episodes as possible. Another regular webinar that is alternating monthly with Fireside Chat is Squaring the Circle Debate. The second Squaring the Circle Debate is scheduled on the 6th of July with the debate theme, COVID has murdered global and regional student mobility. Both our webinars are always on the first Wednesday of the month and always at 8 p.m. Singapore time. So do join us on the 6th of July. We also organize, on behalf of universities, bespoke webinars where we will undertake all production, branding, and marketing, etc. Here's a good example. We are organizing a series of exciting masterclasses jointly with City University of Hong Kong. And so far, we have completed 2 webinars. The third one is scheduled sometime in July, so please look out for our emailers. There are 4 masterclasses in total. Aside from webinars, AppliedHE does a lot of other things as well. We have just launched in February this year, the AppliedHE Private University Ranking ASEAN, and we are now in the process of preparing the AppliedHE Private University Ranking Asia to be launched in 2023. The AppliedHE Private University Ranking is tilted towards teaching and learning and employability, which are the main strengths of private universities. Private universities are often highly innovative, high-quality institutions that serve a large group of students, but they're often undervalued in other research-heavy university rankings. So we are evaluating private universities based on their key strengths, and we hope to shine a light on this often overlooked sector. Now, I would like to call on all the Asian private universities out there. Please submit your data when we invite you, or you can take the initiative and write to us instead. We also launched the Rankometer in January of 2021. The Rankometer is a composite ranking of the world's 5 most influential world university rankings. We will be releasing the Rankometer 2.0 later this year in July, so do look out for our emailers. Graduate employability, or GE, is a key concern among higher education stakeholders, including parents, students, and the government. This is still work in progress. We put a lot of focus on graduate employability, which is why we aspire to rank the graduate employability in each individual country. So if you're interested to be our local partner for this project, please do contact us. For those of you with a deeper interest in the rankings, I highly recommend checking out the AppliedHE Private University Ranking ASEAN Showcase publication, which contains ranking tables, an overview of the methodology, and rankings commentary by some of our panelists like Dr. Kevin Downing and Dr. Richard Holmes, as well as Professor Elizabeth Lee. You can download the ASEAN Showcase now from our rankings page on appliedhe.com. For branding strategies, we are in the process of developing an AppliedHE Future super app for the higher education sector. And you can find features like a networking platform called Future, an alumni CRM on this website as well. So now you can keep track, inform, email your alumni from near and far of news and happenings of your institution anytime, anywhere, all backed up with data and all on one platform. A news site called Extra Extra, now indexed by Google News. You can disseminate news and information about your university to your global peers and stakeholders. So far, these 3 apps are ready and have been launched, and it is a complimentary service for you. So it's in your interest to take advantage of them. The plan is to build apps that are related to higher education, like universities, courses, student recruitment, internships, scholarships, jobs, lifelong learning, and a whole lot more. Our aim is to provide a one-stop platform for all your higher education and beyond needs. To meet your benchmarking and global branding needs, we have 3 rating systems that serve as benchmarks and marketing tools for your institution. We have the all-round job-ready rating system to evaluate the quality of teaching and learning and employability of your graduates. It's organized around 22 employment clusters. So what this means is it can put a spotlight on every program that you have. The job ready rating is the silver bullet that meets your institution's quality assurance and branding needs. We also have an English ready rating to evaluate the quality of English language instruction in non-English speaking countries. It's also a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. And the online ready rating, which helps your institution benchmark and promote its online programs and courses. These tools can translate into affordable strategies for global branding and marketing of your institution. There are not many activities that focus on students, so this is something new and refreshing. We are currently running a pilot with these 2 first of its kind special events. The bite-sized online internship is the first one, and it involves 3 groups of important stakeholders. They are your students, your university, and the employers. Especially for students, it will help them build a global network even before they graduate and connect with potential employers or industries before deciding on what they really want as a career. The second special event is the AppliedHE Fireside Chat with students. It's a unique webinar format that connects students to international employers, hence allowing students to gain insight into the recruitment process and employer expectations, while providing employers with an opportunity to connect with talented students. Both events are promoted globally, and it is a highly viable, visible presentation of an institution's commitment to ensuring its students' international employability. And last but not least, as you know, we are the new kid on the block. We still are, and we're very grateful for all the support that we can get. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our very supportive sponsors. To the sponsors of the Squaring the Circle debate and the Fireside Chat, City University of Hong Kong, Universitas Airlangga of Indonesia, and Education Insight of UK. And to the sponsors of the Private University Ranking ASEAN, my deep appreciation to APU, Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, Malaysia, City University of Hong Kong, and Sunway University, Malaysia. A big thank you for all your valuable support given to AppliedHE. Right, thanks very much, everyone. But please do not leave the room yet. This is the AppliedHE signature sign-off. We want to invite you to experience a networking atmosphere that is as creative and as close as we can get to a physical networking environment. So we're going to open the room now for a few minutes so you can see each other, say hello, introduce yourself. You can even leave a message of your intention if you wish. This is as much as we can do online in the name of networking. So please turn on your cameras now, get a drink in hand, and relax. Over to you, Simon, to get our social events started. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening and a great day ahead. Wow, great to see everyone here.
Hi.
So there's been a lot of questions in the chat box. So yeah, this is your chance now to ask all the speakers about it. Anyone, can you please unmute yourself? Oh, Wanda, yes, you've got loads of questions there. Maybe you can start.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for the wonderful fireside that we have had. I've learned a lot from all of you. I'm an alumni from Uganda Management Institute. I'm so happy that Dr. Sekamate is here. I've learned from all of your colleagues from Malaysia and other countries. Thank you so much. I love so much. I work within projects or programs that so much looks at sustainability, and I track the results of every aspect that we do in monitoring and evaluation. I also love the aspect of the climate change, and as well, I am a youth champion. That's why I look so much into working with the young people, which is a great aspect of sustainability. Thank you so much. I feel great to be joining other fire chats scheduled ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? No one? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, please.
Okay, Mandy, I think this is a wonderful initiative, and I know it's a new kid in the block, but making really the connection with the employer is something very important these days. I think our students and the future generation are really looking forward for a job when they leave their university education. And I just wanted really to point out that your effort matters these days, and the AppliedHE, I think it's really is coming at the right time with all the initiative of different universities, and knowing exactly that measurable kind of goals, it will lead to jobs, and making sure that really this kind of ranking, this kind of important communication with each other about employment, about sustainability, and because I think sustainability, employment is really part of the sustainability of our future generation. without doing this, because you will not be achieving the sustainability of the whole world. So I just wanted really to point out and praise all the speakers about their contribution in the area of sustainability and climate change. I think maybe it's another initiative need to be taken into consideration about this kind of important topic, similar to the employment and similar to the idea of how we can really close the gap between the market and how we can really look at the global impact and how we can really making sure that really we reduce and mitigate, as I said, in the future crisis that might happen to the future generations. So, thank you very much. I just wanted really to mention that.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Haifa. Thank you, everybody. I think we should say good night now. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Pleasure meeting all of you.